Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Mayor and I, with me, Lindsay Khan, and Nick Buckley, MBE, edition number 45, and this is a kind of weekly podcast, although we kind of make it seem like more than weekly.
We do two a week, most weeks we do two.
Where we talk about current events, what's happening out there, things that are raging as both, things of interest, hopefully, and I'll ask Nick quite a few questions. And actually, I meant to say this because I've been reading some of the comments. Some people have said things like, oh, that's been said somewhere else. Or, we're not pretending to be original, are we? We're just talking about things that we're seeing in the papers or reading about and hearing about. So that, you know, we're not pretending to come up with brand new ideas.
You're coming here for originality. You're going to be disappointed, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're looking for original ideas, guys, don't come here. So, episode number 45. Welcome,
45.
Nick.
Thank you.
To, and it's the 1st of October today.
Yes, it is.
And
nearly Christmas.
The winter's I know. The winter's setting. The winter's setting in, isn't it? Two massive events this week. Manchester United's performance at home.
You lost again, didn't you?
What do you mean you lost? You used to be a Man United fan. Now we're losing. Suddenly it's you lot. So we were thrashed 3-0 by Tottenham Hotspur, and it was really a humiliating defeat.
Was you there?
I was there. Well, as you know, we've got quite a few seats there. You've been, and I must take you this year. But I went because Anna's cousins from Australia. Sorry, my wife's cousins from Australia were over. They were in their 80s, but one of them, the lady, the wife, she's a lady. She the last time she'd been was in 1963.
Wow.
She was going out with Martin Edwards, who you may or may not know. It was the owner of Manchester United.
Wow.
Our Man United fans will know who Martin Edwards. So she was going out with. They were only young, 17 or 18. She was in the executive box. They were playing Everton, who they thrashed, and George Best and Dennis Law were playing. Right. And I just felt so embarrassed that that was her previous experience, and this was her current one, basically. So.
And imagine the food's better now.
The food, yeah, possibly.
And the hospitality's better now.
Maybe. I'm not even sure about that. So that was a tragic story. The only glimmer of hope from that, and the reason I'm raising it is I'm hoping this means Ten Hag gets sacked,
right.
who's the current manager, as you know. And the second piece of big news is Prince Harry, and I saw this the other day. He's been to now 7 engagements without. I can't remember the name of his wife.
I can't remember her name. Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle without Meghan Markle. And the rumours are, and we're going to talk about whether I can talk about rumours later. The rumours are that they've split. Have you got any insight into that, Nick? I know you're very close to the royal family, and I know you've got contacts in there. So I just wondered if you'd heard any news.
No idea. I tend not to read anything concerning Harry and Meghan and some other members of the royal family. I have no interest, so I didn't even know this was a 7th engagement without being with her. My only guess would be if they'd split up, you couldn't keep that secret.
Really?
I don't think they could keep that secret. Somebody who, in their circle, who would know, would be paid millions to spill the beans on that. You couldn't keep it a secret.
Yeah.
They may not be getting on.
Yes.
They might be time away from me. All that might be true, but if they'd officially split up...
7 engagements, sir. So the last 7 times he's been out, he's not been with Meghan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought you might be interested in that.
No, I'm not.
And with that, we'll move straight on to Labour Sleaze. And quite a few things have happened since last week with Labour and stuff. I've actually got so many notes now on Labour. I've got 2 sections: Labour and I've got Labour Sleaze. This is how bad it's getting. And I'll just quote from what Starmer said last week, I think. My boy, he calls it. He calls him my boy. I mean, would you call I don't think I've ever called my sons my boy. when I'm
It
describing.
just might be one of those regional things that people say.
My boy 16 was in the middle of his GCSEs. I made him a promise. This is what a great man he is. I made him a promise. I promised that he would be able to get to his school to do his exams without being disturbed. Now, do you know what he was talking about when he was giving that little emotional speech, tear-jerking speech?
Wasn't that when he then took use of was that £18 million penthouse somewhere?
Yes, yeah. So the declared cost of that was £20,000.
Yeah.
His son stayed in this £18 million penthouse of Lord Alley's for such a period of time. It would have cost £20,000 to actually rent it, basically.
Well, from what I've read, they reckon that's a fraction of the cost.
Really?
For a penthouse in that area of London.
Yeah.
They reckon it's a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine a place like that would be 10 grand a week or more, probably more.
Yeah.
I'm probably out of touch with what prices are in London.
Just making sure.
Oh, I was going to say, don't let our microphone not be working. But of course, we were like that when we were doing our GCSEs, weren't we, Nick? You know, when it was a bit noisy, our fathers would just simply call their very wealthy friends and we'd go and stay in their luxury penthouse. So it's what he's saying is perfectly understandable, isn't it? Because everybody would do that.
I had to get my books and bag and walk a mile to Longsight's library.
Yes.
And I would sit and study in the Longsight library.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a hardship compared to what my parents would have had to do.
Yes, exactly.
To study.
Yeah.
What's worse than that is at the same time he did that, he used, nothing wrong in this now, he used his influence, his network, his rich friends to ensure his son did better at school and better at his qualifications. Nothing wrong in that. But at the same time, he put 20% on the cost of private schools so other people couldn't use their money, their benefits to ensure their children got a better education, because he said that's unfair when you do it.
Yeah.
When you use your money, your privilege to get your kid into a better school that you pay for, well, we're going to charge you 20% extra on that because that's fair. When I do it for free with my multi-millionaire friends and I take my son somewhere for a couple of weeks, now that's acceptable for me to do it, just not for you to do it.
Yeah. He takes advantage of that situation massively for the benefit of himself and his family. And then he stops other people from trying to use their own money, their own wealth to try and do well for their own children, doesn't he?
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, and this is what this whole thing reeks of all the way through with Starmer, isn't it? This awful hypocrisy that he's and it was interesting, wasn't it? The another thing he was quizzed on in the run up to the election was private health. Remember that?
Yeah.
And would you ever...
I would let my relative die than me fund them go private.
Yes.
Oh, that was a bit stern. But when it comes to my son's education, I will take him to a penthouse somewhere so we can study.
Yeah, yeah. So
and the dates don't match up either.
Oh no, this is another thing. We're going to talk about that later, but I need to be careful because I don't want you to end up in jail as a result of what we might talk about. The dates don't match up, but in addition to that, another example of his stinking hypocrisy. He broadcast during COVID because, of course, he needed to show he was prepared to go further than Boris and everybody else in terms of locking us up, as those bastards did. So he actually broadcast, and he appeared to be broadcasting from his home because behind him were pictures of his family and everything like that. And he said, "You must work from home. You need to be locked down. Blah blah blah, whatever." Yeah. But he wasn't at home, was he?
He was in this multi-million-pound penthouse in the middle of London that he'd borrowed off his friend.
Yeah. So another example of stinking hypocrisy, lecturing us, telling us how to behave, telling us to work from home when he wasn't working from home, when he was obviously breaking all the rules by hanging out there, and he did that as well. And it's kind of, well, you know, what's going on with this character? Because have we had any explanations as to that or apologies from him around that?
We've not had one apology, one half apology, one sentence that you could interpret that he showed any remorse. When he was interviewed by that Beth Rigby and she asked him some of these questions, he basically said to her, "Who are you to ask me what I do? Do you know who I am?" That's it. That's basically what he said to her.
Yeah.
And she gave him chance after chance to tone it down.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have done it to a Tory. She
No.
gave him chance after chance to tone it down.
Yeah.
Try to tease out of him an apology because she knew that's
Yeah.
what the public wanted. Having none of it. Do
Yeah.
you know who I am?
Yeah.
I can do what I want when I want because I'm the Prime Minister. And before I was a Prime Minister, I was a Prime Minister in waiting. How dare you try to hold me to account?
Yeah. And apparently she said she felt very uncomfortable. Did you see that?
I saw it.
I can't remember her terminology.
He
but
came across a nasty piece of work.
yeah. And she said, I felt very... I don't know if she used the word threatened.
No.
I can't remember what she said. She felt very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he was angry.
Yeah.
He said he was angry during that interview.
Because he's spent 4 years never being questioned
Never being
like
questioned,
that.
yeah.
It's always been hunky-dory.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
ask you no tough questions because we hate the Tories,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
they should
yeah.
be holding the Tories to account because they were in power.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. But now he's in power.
Yeah.
He needs the magnifying glass held on him, and he's never had that before, and he's taken it as a personal attack. It just goes to prove that he's a really, really poor politician.
Yeah. Because you're right. I think when they were not in power, they used to get lowball questions. And I think actually Beth Rigby, who I'm not really... Everybody's saying she's a fantastic... I'm not convinced she is, but I think you're right. She was trying to give him an opportunity to say the right thing. But he's so ham-fisted, and he's so got such a poor understanding of what's going on. He didn't even respond to that, and she ended up interrogating him like she would a Tory. So I think even the press are now starting to turn against him. Even the left-wing press are now starting to turn against him because he just will not answer any questions. He won't give any explanations. He's not taking the easy outs that they've tried to give him, basically. So you're starting to see now the press actually starting to turn against him, and this Beth Rigby thing's the first example.
I think he'll be gone by Christmas.
Yes, you keep saying that.
Be gone by Christmas.
Yeah, I think one of your very popular earlier podcasts said that.
Yeah.
In terms of the clothing side of things, he's now admitted that he's received £32,000. So the question I would ask on that, it's very hard to spend 32 grand on clothes, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a lot of clothes, isn't it? Even if you go to Savile Row and buy the most expensive suits, it's hard to get through 32 grand, isn't it? What was he buying?
Absolutely no idea. I mean, I would imagine not all the money spent is on him, his wife, his children.
I think the 32 grand is for him. That's his clothing.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's not. He
Oh,
may,
sorry,
he
I
may
see
not
what
have
you mean.
spent it all on him. He
Yeah.
may have spent it on other stuff. He's a very foolish man. When the first one of these came out, knowing he had more money, he should have said, well, yes, that's what happened. And to be perfectly honest with you, Beth Rigby, to be perfectly honest, I had some more money than that as well I spent on clothes. He should have hit it head on. Then the new stories wouldn't have been stories. He's
Yeah.
already told the people there's actually more money than
Yeah.
that. But he doesn't answer the question, so the next one comes out. And it's a very, very poor politics.
It is a shocking politics.
Is an art.
Yes, yeah.
And you can get better at it. People like Tony Blair were very good at it. Boris Johnson were very good at it at a certain extent.
Yeah.
People like Kier
Well,
Starmer wasn't very good at
Yeah.
the politics side of it. But there's a way of treating the press. There's a way of announcing stuff you know they're going to come at you with.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand any of that.
But it's also about charisma, though, isn't
Yes.
it, Nick? Because I think if you look at Tony Blair, and I voted for Blair, and I voted for Boris, actually. So, as you know, I've spanned the political divide. I didn't realise all those years ago it was all a waste of time. But Blair had a charm. You know, he was charismatic. You know, there was a twinkle in his eye. You know, you would see him smiling or laughing, and you could tell. You could kind of see in him, you know, what he was laughing at. You could see that he was thinking like we're thinking. You could see the same with Boris as well. Love all that. I mean, the women like Boris, don't they?
Lots of people
Because
like
he's got charm and charisma.
Yeah.
Whatever you say about it, and Trump is in the same way basically.
Yeah.
But you can't see a glimmer of that in this guy, can you?
No.
You cannot see a glimmer of humour. You can't see. It's like when the crowd was laughing at his saying my father was a toolmaker, and they burst out laughing. He was furious. He didn't understand what they were laughing at. Didn't get the joke at all. He seems to have totally be devoid of any sense of humour, and has no charisma around him or understanding, empathy. I think is probably the word we're looking for, isn't it?
He's a robot. He's a bureaucratic robot. He has a plan of what he wants to do, one step after another step after another step. He doesn't want to divert. He's not flexible enough to see problems coming down the path that he can swerve by saying this or doing that. He's been placed into power because the people who placed him into power and have sponsored him and buy him all this stuff, he is delivering what they want him to deliver. That doesn't mean he's doing what he doesn't want to do. He believes in this.
Yeah.
They just found a man who they thought they could get into power, who wants the same as them, and he's just plodding along, and he's a robot.
I saw a pundit on GB News, I think, was talking about it, and they were saying, why is he behaving like this? And he said something which I think I had thought of but never articulated. And he said, this guy was a prosecutor. He thinks like a lawyer. So all these issues here, none of them are illegal. Well, what he's done here, none of it is illegal.
So what's the problem?
So it's almost like, hang on a minute, I've done all this stuff, but I've declared it, so that's legal. I did that, that's legal. I haven't broken any laws here. He can't see the differentiation between, and in court that stacks up.
Yeah.
In court that stacks up. As long as you're making your legal point and you're following the law, you can't be prosecuted. So I think he's just saying, yes, well, I don't understand what the fuss is about. I've done all these things. I've told you it's legal. It's all been declared. I don't understand what the problem is. And he just doesn't understand. He cannot compute and understand the difference between the optics of what's happening and the legality. Because, of course, politics is not about legality, is it? It's about something very, very different. And I thought that was a really incisive observation, that he thinks like a lawyer.
He does, but the very good lawyers also get it because, especially a barrister, because there've been many times where he's having to persuade a jury.
Yes. Yeah.
And the jury doesn't always go on evidence.
Yeah.
They go on if they like someone, as in the defendant or the prosecutor or the victim. So for him to be a good barrister, he would have to understand that as well.
Yeah.
But again, how long was he a barrister?
Yes.
Because
and was he a good barrister?
we don't know.
Yeah.
He was clever enough to become a barrister.
Yeah.
But then why did he stop doing that and become a paper pusher, the top paper pusher at the CPS?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to deal with people one-on-one.
Yeah.
So he went down that road because he didn't have the skills. Maybe he didn't have the skills to be a great barrister, but he had the skills to be a great paper pusher at the CPS.
Yeah. Another thing you may have heard of, and again, I think this is legal. Lord Ali gave...
I wish I knew Lord Ali. You're part Asian.
I do.
Why can't you be more like Lord Ali with me?
I wish I had his money. Lord Ali gave Dame McDonough, I'm not sure that this wasn't very well publicised. Again, it's something that kind of went under the radar. He gave a Labour peer, £1.2 million loan to buy a house for her mother or sister.
Her sister.
Yeah.
Who I believe is a long-term friend of Lord Ali, so they say.
Yeah.
What does long-term friend mean? Does that mean
1.2 million by the sound of it?
Yeah, that's what that means. Does that mean she met him once in the 80s? Who knows? That did hit the press, but it didn't get this.
Hardly got any.
No. Again, why? All declared.
Yeah.
This wasn't undercover work finding it. It was all declared.
Yeah.
But it's gone beyond that now. It's just, this is what killed John Major's government. Sleaze after sleaze after sleaze after sleaze.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of John Major's ministers, some of it was illegal, and all this at the moment seems to be legal, makes no difference to the general public. They're just seeing sleaze. And weren't you the anti-sleaze people?
Yeah.
Weren't you the ones for the last 14 years saying how bad the Tories are, and it's all sleaze?
And the best they could do against the Tories was the wallpaper in Boris's. So this Lord Ali character, who's a Muslim, by the way. He's one of the few apparently he's one of the few openly gay Muslim politicians, or whatever he styles himself as. He's made multiple this is something I'm paraphrasing something I read online. He's made multiple donations, gifts, accommodations, favours and loans to numerous Labour MPs and the Labour Party. We now have new Islamophobia laws coming in. There's £170 million being given out for new mosques to be built. Pubs are going to be closing earlier, and there's been leniency re Hare Hills and Manchester Airport. Any connection? So what this person is saying is, we've got this very, very high-profile wealthy Muslim giving lots of people, not just one, lots of people in the Labour Party money and favours and all sorts. And there's a whole raft of legislation and changes coming through tending to favour Muslims.
Yeah.
Any coincidence? Is there a link, Nick, in that?
That's how it looks. And sometimes it doesn't matter if there's a link or not, if that's how it looks. People, see something that looks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, people presume it's a duck. Would he be spending all this money purely on Muslim causes? Who knows? I've never met the man. The Conservative government did basically the same thing. Were they getting money off Ali? I don't think we know. All I know is it looks poor. And Lord Ali can spend his money however he wishes. It's not illegal to donate to political parties.
Once again, he's done nothing illegal.
He's done nothing wrong. It's all was declared, which is fine. We need to be careful we don't make Lord Ali some Bond villain. He
does look like he's quite small, isn't he? You can imagine him in a chair stroking a cat.
That
was just me.
Yeah, stroking an invisible cat. We need to make sure that we don't demonise the man. He's done nothing wrong. And our Western politics is all about influence. It's all about lobbying. So he's not the story for me. If he does want something out of this, well, who blames him? He's spent multi-million pounds on stuff. If he wants stuff out of this, that's what he was trying to do. We need a better class of politician. We need people with a better set of morals. We need people who put the country first. And when you start seeing some of the things you just mentioned there, whether or not let's say they're not connected, but as the public see it and start going, they're connected, that damages respect in our system. It damages the reputation of all politicians. More people then will go, what's the point of voting? This just kills our democracy and kills our system. We need better people.
I think the positive thing about all this is people are waking up, aren't they?
Yes.
Loads of people are waking up, and I think they're now thinking, oh my God, that we're being fooled by this lot, and we've been fooled by that lot before now. And it's kind of, I think they're starting to realise the whole thing is a travesty and a joke, basically. I want to move on now and to a new heading, which is, and I'll tell you what the heading is first, and then I'll say a couple of things before. And this is what could potentially end up with you in jail, Nick. But I'll make sure that I'm not affected. And the question is, what is the open secret about Sir Keir Starmer? And before you start to, I'm sure our gentle listeners know something about this, so I suspect a lot of people have not heard about this. Yeah. But before we start, just to kind of give you a lead in here, Sir Keir Starmer's, an anagram of Sir Keir Starmer's name is Arse Rim Striker, just to lead you gently into what this open secret might be. I'm not saying there's a connection between anagram and whatever, but could you maybe educate our gentle listeners as to what is happening around this?
Isabel Oakeshott.
I'll just check with the police. They're not pulling it. Yes.
Well, that's not a police I'm worried about. I'm worried about SAS abseiling down my house, coming through the window like the Iranian embassy. That's what I'm worried about. Not worried about PCSO knocking on my door. Isabel Oakeshott is a reporter at Talk TV. She's been a reporter for decades, worked everywhere. She wrote the biography on David Cameron.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. She's been, and she's the long-term partner of Richard Tice.
Richard Tice, yeah. What's his title now in Reform?
He's deputy leader.
He's deputy leader, yeah. So she's his partner, yeah.
So she's been around politics for decades. You know, she knows stuff, whether or not you like it or not. She was on Talk TV the other day, and she's the one who sort of broke this story, and everyone's now using her as the go-to. So when they're in court, they can say Isabel Oakeshott said it. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So Isabel Oakeshott on Talk TV said...
I'm quoting here, yeah.
Yes, said, there's an open secret in Westminster, and it's been open secret for many years, about Kier Starmer and his family structure, whatever that means. And the reason why no one's reported it is because they don't think it's a matter of public interest. So that rules out things like corruption. That rules out lots of saviour stuff, because that would be in the public interest. So it sounds like it's something personal. So then she said people are waiting to publish it now that he's Prime Minister and now he's under the cosh. They just want to add more fuel to the fire. There was then rumours then that there is a super injunction, not a normal injunction, but a super one.
I'm terrified, Nick. What is a super injunction?
So I'm not a solicitor, but I was watching The Black Belt Barrister yesterday or the day before on TV. He's on YouTube. He's a proper barrister.
It must be true then what he was saying.
Well, he didn't say. He was explaining what a super injunction was, which sounds quite scary. It gags the press. You can be in trouble for saying that you're being gagged because of a super injunction.
Yes, so you're not even allowed to... If the super injunction has been taken out against you, you can't even say there's a super injunction being taken.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it really draconian. I think this law was brought in by Tony Blair to try to get a grip of the press, the paparazzi and stuff like that. But like all things, you bring a new tool, a new law, and other people will want to use it for their benefit. So there's something, there's a secret. So there's been all sorts. So the rumour mill on Twitter is crazy, ranging from lots of things, from his sexuality to this to that to all sorts of things.
Yeah.
We don't know if any of it's true, and I would imagine most of the rumours aren't true because they would have come out by now.
And just to illustrate some of that, and some of the things on comments I've seen on some of receiving input from a certain member of the House of Lords. That's what I've heard, which is obviously is a euphemism.
Yeah.
Will no one rid me of this turbulent shirt lifter, Henry II? That's another one I've heard as well, basically. Going up the Arsenal, sir, because he's a fan of Arsenal, I understand. Yeah. So those are examples of what people have been saying.
Isabel Oakeshott made it perfectly clear when she announced this that it had nothing to do with his sexuality.
Right, okay.
She said it's got nothing to do with that.
So you heard it here first, folks. This super injunction that Nick's talking about has got nothing to do with Sir Keir Starmer's sexuality. Thank you.
Yeah, she said it was to do with his family structure. Now that's a nebulous term. I don't know what that means. So she used that term, so it was nebulous, so she wouldn't get herself into trouble.
Could you give me an example of a family situation that, obviously not relating to Keir Starmer, that could be an example of this that would not be in the public interest? Yeah. So for me, who doesn't really...
So if we had a politician, senior politician, whose child was trans...
Yes.
Who didn't want it to be made public.
Yes.
Well, I don't think the press would make that story.
Right.
Because it's not in the public interest. It's not our business.
I see.
That a child has decided to change gender, wants to be called Dorothy, but doesn't want to be in the press about it. So that would be understandable. It would also be understandable if it turned out that a senior politician had two wives. One legally married and one not legally married to it, because it'd be bigamy, it'd break the law if they're both legally married.
Yeah.
So if you had
like a French politician who might have a mistress, full-time mistress or something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I mean...
Oh, you actually had two wives?
I mean two wives, live in the same house together or have two homes and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure the press would report on that because it would be private. Both wives know about each other, not our concern. If it was an affair, like you just said then, like a French politician with a mistress in Paris for the weekends, this day and age now, I don't think that would be reported. It would have done 20, 30 years ago, but it wouldn't be reported now. I think it would only... This thing would have been reported if it was more serious. If a politician was having an affair, that French politician was having an affair, and the person having an affair with has links to the Russian embassy...
That is in the public interest.
That is in the public interest. If that French politician has 2 wives, and it turns out that they both have a marriage certificate in French, well, someone's brought the law here because you only can marry one woman at a time in this country and get a certificate. So that's bigamy. So that would be the public interest because you've broken the law. But almost everything else now wouldn't be in the public interest.
The super injunction, though. Why would you need to bring a super injunction if it wasn't in the public interest? Because you wouldn't be comfortable with that information being in the public domain. Is that why?
Yes, because suddenly Isabel Oakeshott has said on Talk TV that there's something going on. So then everyone's talking about it. You would have thought at that point, everyone knows about this. No one's ever reported it. Good.
Yeah.
I'm now in a senior position in the French government.
Yeah.
And it's now being rumoured that there's a secret. I'll get a super injunction. I'll make sure no one reports it now because I'll shut them all down.
Yeah.
With the threat of jail, of contempt of court, and I can afford a super injunction. Bang, that shuts them all up. That's if one has been taken out because we don't know. That's a rumour as well. If a super injunction has been taken out.
Well, let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say in 2020, a reputable journalist, like for example Beth Rigby or Tim Shipman, if they were about to break a story about a senior politician having a mistress and having had children with that mistress, for example, and then that senior politician found out and took out a super injunction, would that journalist, Beth Rigby or Tim Shipman, be then able to say, I've had a super injunction taken out against me? So they'd have to say, oh, forget all that, it's not real.
So my understanding, according to the Black Belt Barrister on YouTube...
You're getting it here first, folks, at the highest level of legal... The highest level of legal...
Kung Fu solicitor. He says, and he must know, he's a clever guy, that if a super injunction has been, what's the word, given to you, presented to you, served to you, that then in that super injunction is you're not allowed to tell anybody that a super injunction has been served against you.
Right.
So you can't say, I was going to report a story, but I've been gagged now, I can't.
You can't even mention that.
You can't say anything because that goes against super injunction. And these reporters don't want to end up in jail.
Yeah.
Don't want to end up in court. Contempt of court, which, you go to jail. And let's remember, there's people in jail at the moment for Facebook tweets.
Yes.
So if a Facebook tweet can give you 2-3 years, if you're going to break a super injunction, what are they going to do to you? And let's say they do nothing. Could be then your career, though.
Yeah. Well, let's take that example forward. So let's say this journalist, reputable journalist, was about to break this story about this senior politician 4 years ago. That didn't happen. And then we fast forward 4 years into the future, and somebody like, say, another reputable journalist like Andrew Pierce of the Daily Mail is about to break the same story again because rumours, Isabel Oakeshott's made some rumours or whatever, and the rumours are going. Could another super injunction then be taken out against Andrew Pierce of the Daily Mail that weekend to stop him releasing that story in the papers?
I don't see why not, but that's just my pure guess because what do I know? But I don't see why not. knowing a little bit I know about normal injunctions, you can serve another injunction on someone else. But moving on from this, not going moving off it, but building on this now is dominating the news. This is dominating Twitter. There's a lid on it at the moment, but it will get to a stage that people online anonymously are talking about this.
I think they already are, Nick.
But it'll get to a stage where they're now naming it and saying this is fact and actually saying what it is.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, the press then can go to court and saying, lift the super injunction because it's all over the internet.
This is in the public domain now.
Well, it's in the public domain.
Yeah.
Why are you gagging the press when anyone can Google it on Twitter, read it? Why is the press not allowed to report on it? That's how other super injunctions have been lifted.
So you think this story's going to break?
Has to. It has to break. And there's also a feeding frenzy around Starmer as well at the moment. So everybody wants it to break. And if it doesn't break this week, there'll be more stuff going on. And he's dying. He's dying as a Prime Minister in front of our eyes.
But then me as Starmer, the barrister and lawyer, would say, yes, I have got this personal situation. Yeah. We don't know what it is, folks, but we have got this personal situation. But it's perfectly legal. I'm not doing anything illegal. What's the problem, Nick? Nick, what's the problem? You're an arbiter. You're an arbiter of what.
And that's a very good defence, because we need to be careful that we do not persecute somebody for something they've done that was legal. But there is a moral judgment to be made as well. But we also live in an age now where you're not allowed to make moral judgments. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be in a throuple. You know what a throuple is?
I don't want to know, Nick.
A throuple is 3 people in a couple. A throuple.
It doesn't even make any sense.
You know what I mean? So having a couple, 2 people romantically involved.
Yes.
You have 3 people romantically involved.
It's living together?
Yeah.
No,
and
that can't work.
That's a throuple. So we have all these things now that we're not allowed to make judgments on because everyone's lifestyle choices is equal to everybody else's. We know that to be rubbish, but that's the societal norm we've created now over the last couple of decades. So for him to say, this is my normality, it would be, if he wasn't Prime Minister, then it probably wouldn't be anyone's concern. It still might not be our concern, but it's hard to know is that our concern until you know what it is. It's a catch-22. But we might find out about it and then go, yeah, we didn't need to know about that. But it's too late then. We've damaged some of his privacy.
Say the fact that this man is capable of hiding this level of strangeness about his personal relationship means that we need to now start questioning whether he's fit to be the Prime Minister.
That is the other side of the same coin. So we'll either find out we didn't need to know, in which case we've damaged his reputation a little bit and removed a little bit of his privacy, or we find out, well, we did need to know because this French politician is a freak and likes mooses and
elks. You're not subtly trying to tell me that Kier Starmer's involved in a throuple, are you? Is it?
No, I've no idea. I'm just saying all these things have become social norms.
Because it could have broken first here, couldn't it?
No. All I read is some of the rumours online, and I'm basing most of my stuff off Isabel Oakeshott, because she knows what she's talking about.
Trying to pin it on Isabel.
I am. So she said nothing to do with sexuality, it's to do with family structure.
I'm learning some ugly things during this podcast. I found out what scissoring is, and now what a throuple is, which is really... But I think all this stuff is happening with Labour and Starmer and all these people, but I'm not convinced it's affecting their popularity. In fact, I'll read out some recent stats. So we've moved away from Labour Sleaze. Let's move on to Labour and how they're doing. Yeah. So a recent YouGov poll last week showed that only 1 in 3 people currently have a positive opinion of Labour. So we've gone from it then being voted in with a massive majority to now only 1 in 3 people having a positive opinion about the Labour Party.
Well, that's not bad because only 1 in 3 people voted.
Yeah, less actually. Less.
Oh, sorry, no, 1 in 5 people have voted for Labour.
Yes.
In the whole population.
So actually their popularity's
gone up.
3 in 5 people now think Labour will lose the next general election.
Yeah.
Just a reminder of the actual way they got in. Only 20% of the electorate voted for the Labour Party to give them total control. So only 20% of the electorate.
Yeah.
The Reform Party received 4 million votes and got 5 seats.
Yeah.
The Lib Dem received 3.5 million votes, 500,000 less than Reform, and got, guess how many seats?
67?
72 seats.
72.
So we are living in a very, very strange time where we have a Labour Party in power who hardly got any votes. We have a party in waiting, Reform, who got all those votes and are basically have hardly any representation. And then the behaviour of the Labour Party means that at the moment nobody really wants them to be there. It's a weird thing, and flies in the face of my forecast that they do really well.
But this is the beginning of the change.
Yeah.
So change takes time. Change in this country takes time. It should take time. Otherwise, we'll be flipping to one idea, one ideology every couple of years. So the general election showed us that change has started. We saw the destruction of the Tory party. We saw a new party win 5 seats, which we've never seen before. That was the first election Reform I've ever stood in, won 5 seats. And we saw Labour get the lowest share of vote probably ever, even though they got a majority. So this is the beginning of the change. It'll take at least 2 more cycles.
I think it might not, and I think the reason it might not take 2 more cycles is because how dreadful Labour have been. They've just been. That's what I think. Loads of people have just woken up and just think we are being fooled here. We are being fooled left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Because they're being, and the veil has dropped, hasn't it? You actually see the totalitarians that are trying to run our country, which included Tories before. So I just think people have woken up now. I think you're right. I think he's got to be out by Christmas. But you also said you think the Labour Party will be out before 5 years.
Within 2 years. 2 years. Within 2 years, Labour will be out. The rumours online, again, these are rumours, who knows what's true, is they're plotting in Downing Street to get rid of him. Labour Party is already plotting. Some of the senior people, like your favourite, Angela Rayner, some of them are already plotting and making sure. She's disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yes, she has.
Because she doesn't want to be tarred with his problems. So these
Yeah.
people are all manoeuvring. That's what politicians do, and good for them, because they all want to be number one. That's a lot of people get into politics for that. There's nothing wrong in that. But they're on their manoeuvres. They're all trying to work out easy staying, easy going. And then you'll have the Labour donors, the trade unions going, we can't have this going on. Kier Starmer is the story every single week. If we get rid of him, like the Tories got rid of Liz Truss, that ends it.
Yeah.
And then we get someone else in who's a better puppet, like Rishi Sunak, and maybe business can go forward.
Rishi Sunak looks like a superstar, actually. His popularity now is higher than Starmer's.
Yeah.
And he wasn't that good. So I mean, there's an interesting point that I read the other day that Labour has jettisoned most of its election pledges within weeks, but they're blaming it on this 22 billion hole, aren't they? Basically saying, "Oh, yeah, we made all those promises, guys, but we're actually not going to carry them out because we've got 22 billion hole here. We've got to fill basically." And then there was a joke by Andrew. Do you know Andrew Lawrence?
He's funny. Yeah.
He said it, and we talked about the sausage gaff last week, didn't we? And he said it's all very well laughing at Starmer's sausage gaff, but that doesn't change the fact that he's inherited a 22 billion toad in the hole, which I thought was very good. One of the things that's happened last week is the nurses have rejected a 5.5% pay deal. Are you surprised at that, Nick?
No.
Yeah.
How could you accept that when the doctors have got 22%?
Yeah.
Why would you?
Yeah.
And the teachers yesterday accepted a 5.5 pay rise.
All right.
I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, that is surprising.
Why they didn't hold out for more?
Yeah. Not that.
And that's because their education's quite poor.
They thought it was more than 5.5%.
Yeah.
another thing that happened last week at the Labour conference is that the Labour members voted against Keir Starmer's winter. So they took a vote in the stadium. And
a meaningless vote. I had no power.
Yeah. Well, it kind of sends a message.
It does send a message, but
there's division already in the
yes,
Labour Party. They're voting against him. But he wasn't there, was he, Nick? Because do you know where he was?
Was he at the UN?
Yes, because he's a global leader. Of
Did
course.
you see that picture of him at the UN?
No, which picture?
Oh, it looked like it was out of 1984. So I've been to the UN. I've been in the General Assembly chamber,
really?
whatever it's called.
What, to speak?
No, as a tourist.
Oh, right, okay.
And to speak. Never
Why not? Why not? You've been on lots of things.
He's at this podium, this massive stage with the
No, they want to have you because you've got integrity.
Behind
you
him.
wouldn't go there.
He looked like he was the leader of the world. This picture was just was like he'd love it.
Yeah.
But looking at it, the man in 1984,
really?
It was horrendous. Yeah.
There's a particular look about 1984, isn't there, in terms of that kind of. What I found fascinating and incredibly annoying is when he was addressing the UN, he didn't talk about the UK. He talked about the Ukraine, the Middle East, the Sudan, basically. And hearing that, I just thought, why the hell don't you talk about your own country? In fact, I actually thought, what the hell are you doing there? Get back to this country where the people need help and sort them out rather than poncing around on the UN stage. And then that idiot Lammy came out, didn't he? In the UN. And he was talking about... What was he talking about? He talked about how he was an ancestor of a slave.
It was about Russia. And he was saying he knows colonialism when he sees it because I'm stood here today as a black man. And he was sat down. It's like, he's an idiot. I stand in front of you today as a black man. Sat down, mate. Stand up if you're going to say that. Or just change the word. I'm sat here in front of you today. That's perfectly acceptable.
But the thing is, so he's referencing presumably his slave heritage or something. But that wasn't anything to do with him, was it?
Nothing to do with us. It was his ancestors sold his ancestors into slavery.
So how does he therefore know about this then?
He's just playing the race grift. That look at me. The only thing special about me is I'm a black man.
Yeah.
That's the only thing special about me.
And I was reading about Lammy. You know, I've got a particular downer on Lammy because I just think he's thick. But apparently he went to a very average university and got a very average degree, and then somehow ended up, is it at Harvard or somewhere like that?
Yes, I think
you hear about this.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Again, he may have been picked out as somebody we could do with on our side. Harvard might have, probably still have a policy of benefiting black people over more qualified people to attend. He probably got a scholarship that's only open to black people. The list goes on.
Yeah, he went to is it SAOS? I don't even know what it stands for. That it's a university, but it's not apparently a very good one. So another thing, this is really should be in the Sleaze side of things, but Angela Rayner has employed a £68,000 a year photographer that we are paying for, the taxpayer is paying for.
And she's doing that because she's trying to improve her image. She wants to bombard us with more professional photos, her looking regal, her looking clever. He's got his work cut out. That's why he's on 68
He's
grand.
got his work cut out.
But that's her manoeuvrings.
Yeah.
Because she knows the number one job will be vacant soon. And she's doing what Thatcher did. Thatcher softened her image to get voted in. And she's trying to create a new image of
She's
Angela
no
Rayner.
Margaret Thatcher.
No, but she's using...
No, sorry.
She's using
I was paraphrasing
that,
quite a famous quote there. But
yeah.
But I was watching Jim Davidson, because he has a podcast now, and he was saying she should spend that £68,000 on clothes, because she dresses dreadfully. She looks awful all the time. So she's now spending that. But I think you're right. She's manoeuvring.
I wonder if any story is going to come out about her and Freebirds. They must.
Yeah,
they have because
they have. She was the one in New York in the Ali Spence house.
Yeah, and she's the one who did take money for clothes because then she said it's because I'm poor and working class. Yeah, I need better clothes.
Yeah. And wasn't there some sort of scandal around her having AirPods? She bought AirPods on using her
expensive, but all that was acceptable because she needed AirPods. The criticism was, why did you have to buy the most expensive AirPods when you could have bought cheaper ones on the taxpayer? That was the criticism there. Not that she bought them, she needed them.
Lady Starmer,
Yep.
or Lady Victoria Sponge, as we know her. So obviously there's all this scandal about all these clothes. And then I think because they think we're idiots, Nick, the next event she turned up to, she was wearing a £36 t-shirt and 10 quid shoes or something. And it's almost like, you can imagine them sitting around, can't you, strategizing. I know what, we'll put you in a cheap t-shirt next event, and then they'll forget all about because they're a bit thick, that lot.
Yeah.
That Nick Buckley and Lindsay Khan, they're a bit thick. You'll fool them with that Lady Victoria Sponge. I mean, do you think that is actually the way they're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely.
They think we're imbeciles.
I think many people are. And many people fall for these little tricks. They do.
They're now working on a 5-point plan. A 5-point plan, which is basically to focus on stopping smoking, stopping obesity, stopping alcohol, stopping inactivity, and giving clean air, basically. Now, those 5 points, I mean, they're just insane, aren't they? They're obsessed with controlling us, aren't they? So the first 5 points: smoking, obesity, alcohol, inactivity. Those are my few pleasures. Those are the few pleasures that people have in life. I don't smoke, but those are the few pleasures you have in life, aren't they? The few pleasures you have is having a drink, eating more than you need to eat. Not go and doing exercise, basically. But they're just, why can't they just leave us alone? Why do they have to do this to us, to the working, and I won't say working class, just say the working man. Because again, Starmer can't define what working class is, by the way. I don't know if you saw that clip either.
No.
Somebody asked him, what's working class? And he couldn't actually answer the question. Yeah. He said it's somebody, I tell you who it was, Nick Ferrari. Look it up if you can, it's really interesting. Said, could you tell me what working, this is before he became Prime Minister, working, and he said, it's somebody who leaves the house every day and goes out to work and comes back, and he said, well, middle class people do that, don't they? And he couldn't actually define working class, even though he's always droning on about them. However,
you think if anybody could define working class, it should be the Labour Prime Minister.
Yes.
I mean, it's a hard question to answer.
It is a hard question.
It's complicated.
To answer. I personally don't believe it exists anymore. Working class,
but you think if anyone had an answer, it'd be a Labour Prime Minister.
Yeah, exactly, and the son of a toolmaker.
Yes.
So Andrew Ferrari asked him this, and he said, "Oh well, blah blah blah. It's people who go out." But however, the point I was making, and I don't like to use the word working class. I say the working man.
Yeah.
Those 5 things are targeting working men, aren't they? The things that working men have as a pleasure after a day of working. After a hard week, I mean, I drink on a Friday. I tend to start drinking on a Friday and drink on a Saturday and Sunday. I won't drink during the week. But I look forward to my beer on a Friday night. And I'm sure smokers look forward to their smoke when they're finishing work. People like to go out, have a curry, eat food. People also like to sit down and relax
and
do nothing as well.
And people like to use their cars and do it to the air.
Yeah, exactly. So why are they obsessed with destroying us like this?
This is not about destroying us. This is about control. So it's very hard to introduce tyranny through the front door because we see it coming and we'll push back. So the best way to introduce tyranny and take control of a nation is to say to a nation, I'm doing these things for your safety. That's how you introduce tyranny into a society. All those things, they will say, we're doing this for your safety. We're trying to give you better health. That's why we're trying to reduce alcohol and smoking and increase exercise and reduce pollution. We're doing this for you. We have to take away a few of your rights for that, but the benefit is you'll live longer and you'll be taken care of better. And for a lot of people, that's quite an attractive proposition. That's what the government did over COVID. COVID's going to kill you, but we're going to save you by taking away some of your rights. And that's what every dictator always does. It's also why every dictator in the world is always at war with someone. because there always has to be someone to be perceived to be bigger and badder than them, so the public won't turn on them. I'm saving you from that dictator. I know I'm a dictator, but I'm here to save you from them. And that's what this is. It's about gaining power and control over the populace. It's about tyranny, and they do it through, we're here to save you and protect you.
And I think you're spot on that, because I think he also has said, I don't know whether this was at the UN, in fact it won't be the UN because he wasn't talking about, he also said that the state will take more control in people's lives.
That was his speech at the party conference.
Oh, that was his speech at the party conference, you're right. So he's actually explicitly stated it. The state will take more control of people's lives. So they're not hiding it.
That's some scary shit, that. Politicians saying we're going to take more control of your lives. It should be the complete opposite of that mantra.
Correct.
It should be, we're going to give you more and more responsibility over your own lives. Don't mess it up. That should be the mantra from the government.
Yeah.
Not, we're going to take control of your lives. How dare them?
But if he is this character, you can actually understand. You can imagine him fuming, can't you, sitting at home. We've seen the reaction to the Beth Rigby interview. How dare you ask me questions like that? And then all these little grubby people, because these working class people, even though he doesn't know, can't define working class, are saying all these terrible things about me, you know, calling me a shirt lifter and all that sort of stuff, and it's not true. I need to get those people under control. You can imagine him almost saying that, can't you? And he's in this position of power, and they voted me in. You know, look at the numbers. I've got a majority of 70 MPs. So, yes, I am going to take control of these awful, nasty little people, these right-wing thugs that are doing this. That must be what I think he's thinking that.
There's two things he could be thinking there. The first thing is that, and that's because if he's a narcissist, how dare you think these things, say these things, I'm in control now, it's all about me. On the flip side of that, and I'm sure it's partly that, but on the flip side of that, it's also, I know best. You know, I'm doing these things for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm doing these for the right reasons, because if I can run your life for you, honestly, you will live longer.
Yeah.
If I can reduce your alcohol intake, your smoking, clean up the air, you'll live longer. You'll thank me later. I'm going to create a utopia. Life can be better than what it is now. All you've got to do is trust me and give me the power and let me remove some of your rights, because if I can do that, the benefits will be better for all of us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many politicians believe that. I'm sure Hitler believed that.
Yeah.
And he may be sincere. He may be able to achieve his aim. Let's give him some credit. Let's say he can make the world, the country better if we give him more power and take away some of rights. Let's say that's true. Who comes after him?
Yeah.
That's always a scary bit. Who comes after him? Who now has all the power and we have less rights. Who comes after him? And I don't want to take that chance.
Yeah.
We should never take the chance of who comes down the path next.
Yes. Because even though he might be benevolent in his management of that, the next person might not be.
Exactly.
And I think that's already happening, isn't it? We're already starting to see some of the, with the arrest of the so-called right-wing thugs, the political prisoners I talk about. Aren't we already seeing that?
Yeah.
Where laws are being used or were put in place for what they thought were the right reason. I don't know whether, but they're actually being exploited and abused now to arrest people for tweets and things like that. That's part of it, isn't it?
Been going on for decades.
Yeah.
Been going on for decades. Very slowly, very behind the scenes. We introduced a law to tackle terrorism. Police use that law now to stop anybody they don't like.
Yeah.
It was created to stop terrorists, Al-Qaeda blowing stuff up, the IRA. And they use it now to stop people in the street when there's no suspicion they're a terrorist. They stopped a demonstration going to London. I can't remember what the demonstration was now. They stopped the coach, impounded the coach and everybody off it under Terrorism Acts. Because once you give the state more and more power, people will use those powers in ways you cannot foresee. And we keep making the mistake all the time. And the amount of laws we have on the books now is tremendous.
Yeah.
We need a government who says, every new law we pass, we remove 3 laws off the books.
Yeah.
That's the sort of government we need.
I mean, I would hope that if reform eventually gets in, which I think they will do, that they start to get rid of all these grotty laws, hate laws, and all that sort of stuff. I just hope they get rid of them. We mentioned the sausages last time.
Those damn sausages.
Was it what was it? Returns. We demand the return of the sausages. Yeah. And there was an interesting article by Alison Pearson in the Telegraph, and she basically thinks it demonstrates how little he actually does care about the hostages, because she thinks it's kind of almost a Freudian slip, isn't it? The fact he was reading that speech out talking about, there must be a ceasefire with Israel, but then when he got onto the hostage bit, he wasn't even thinking about what he was saying and actually just misread it or whatever it might be. And I think there's a great truth in that, because there really are no accidents, are there? When things like that happen, there's something, because if you believe in your speech, if you look at Nigel Farage speaking, I think we talked about this before, he speaks with conviction, he doesn't speak from an auto cue.
No, but he's an excellent public speaker.
Yes, he is.
Keir Starmer is not a public speaker.
Yeah.
It may be true. I would just say that's a very unfair assessment on someone. Someone who's not a public speaker, someone who doesn't like giving public speeches, who's probably nervous, is at the conference.
He can't be nervous. He's been doing it for decades.
Lots of people, people say it's the biggest fear most people have got is public speaking.
Really?
So, and I'm sure, it's a crazy mistake to make. Why is he thinking of sausages? I don't know. But,
maybe we do know.
Yeah, that's one of those times I would give someone a benefit of doubt and say it was just a mistake.
Big news again this week in the Labour Party. Rosie Duffield resigned.
That was a hell of a resignation letter.
Yeah.
Hell of a letter.
And what did she say? I have read it, but if you could remind me maybe what she was saying in that.
Surprisingly and quite cleverly, she doesn't mention gender ideology in any of that.
Which is the stick they beat her with for years, wasn't it?
She didn't mention any of that, she was correct not to do, because the accusation then would have been, so why are you resigning now? She just basically said the Labour Party's changed and has left her behind because Labour Party's here to make poor people's lives better, to make pensioners' lives better. We're taking away the winter fuel allowance, making them poorer, and to end and lower child poverty. We're keeping in place the 2-limit child support that people get, that the Tories brought in. And both of them were things Starmer said he wouldn't do. He said we're getting rid of the 2-child limit and we're not going to get rid of the winter fuel allowance, and he does both of them. And she tore him a new one.
And they're using this 22 billion black hole as a reason for not doing these things, not reversing these things.
They need an excuse. But I read somewhere that 10 billion, it's cost the government 10 billion on the new pay rises for train drivers, doctors. So they spent half of it themselves.
They sent 10 billion to Ukraine as well. 12 billion was it?
No, I think it was a couple of billion to Ukraine.
Oh, sorry, 12 billion to Africa.
Africa for climate change.
Yes.
I think Africa might be a bit hot, so they're buying everyone a parasol. But don't forget, all the government figures are already out there. They wouldn't know what the money's been spending every penny, but the OBR forecast how much. They knew what was in the exchequer. They knew, and they knew the headline figures, so there was no shock. And if we had 20 billion in debt, then we already knew that. And 20 billion sounds a lot of money to me and you. But it isn't in the grand scheme of things, because we've just given Africa 12 billion.
Yeah.
And
I think it was 4 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah, so all these things, it isn't we're short of money. We just haven't got as much money as the government was willing to spend. It's just about where you spend the money we've got.
Yeah.
And we waste so much of it.
Yeah. But apparently the Rosie Duffield resignation is the fastest ever resignation of a sitting incumbent party
Right.
ever in the history of the Labour Party, of any party basically. But yeah, she's been fantastic, hasn't she? Especially on the tranny thing, and it's not surprising.
Losing her and her seat isn't a big deal for Starmer.
No.
The resignation letter was.
Yeah.
That's he'll be quoted that in many times to come.
Yeah.
Different parts of that. It also sends a signal throughout the Labour Party that I don't agree with any of this, and someone's already resigned.
Mm.
Am I at a stage yet to resign also?
Yeah.
We're not going to get the resignations that are going to force him out.
No.
But,
it weakens his position.
Every resignation, all these things weakens his position until he gets kicked out by the money men.
I want to end this section about Labour and also this episode of The Mayor and I with a positive. And this is a positive where Labour's they haven't actually done it yet, so let's hold our horses. But apparently they are talking and they're releasing emails or press to the end that they're going to end the BBC licence fee prosecutions. So they're prosecuting people at the moment for not paying their BBC licence. I understand you don't pay yours, Nick, but I don't want to grass you up in any way. So they're going to stop prosecuting people, and the main reason they're going to stop prosecuting people is it's mainly women. And the reason it's mainly women is it's mainly little old ladies who have taken is it the red pill or the blue pill? I can't remember.
Red pill.
Taken the red pill, woken up and said, I'm not paying my BBC licence because this government is a travesty or whatever. But then when the nasty little BBC licence man turns up and says, have you got a TV? They say yes. And they say, have you been watching this, that and the other? They go, yes, but I'm not paying my license. And then they're arrested and thrown in prison, basically. Because the little old ladies are honest, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was you or me, you just tell them to piss off. But so they're looking at stopping prosecuting people for not paying for their BBC TV licence.
Yeah. First of all, those old ladies are not arrested and thrown in jail because someone's knocked on the door. So talk about
they are.
Talk about exaggerating a point.
They are. There's lots of little old ladies in jail. They've had to let hardened criminals go to get them to wheel them in, basically.
Yeah, they're
sharing cells with foreign nationals who are also here. Yeah.
Not paying your TV license is a criminal offence.
Yes.
It's not a civil offence, it's a criminal offence. That's what they're going to change. They're going to make it a civil offence.
Oh, I see.
People will still be taken to court.
Yes.
But if you still don't pay that,
you just get fined.
You get fined. You never go to jail.
Right.
At the moment, you end up in court. You don't pay your licence. You then don't pay the fine. You go back to court. You get another fine. You don't pay that. Eventually, you end up in jail. My understanding is it's not little old women. My understanding is it's normally single mothers.
Oh, really?
Dysfunctional single mothers.
That's not fair. Call them dysfunctional.
Well, no, it's not all single mothers. It's just the dysfunctional ones.
Well, we're not dysfunctional and we're not paying for our TV licence.
But we're not in jail.
That's true.
Yeah. So what happens?
Oh, I see. You mean dysfunctional that they end up in a route where they end up in jail.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's not dysfunctional men is because dysfunctional men don't have homes. Dysfunctional women, if you've got a kid, always have a home, paid for by the state. Dysfunctional man won't have his kid with him and is homeless.
I see.
So don't have a TV.
Yeah.
So the fact Labour are doing this because it affects women more is appalling. It's identity politics, and I don't support that. But what this will do is it will end the BBC. Because the second you say to people, if you don't have a TV licence, you're not going to jail, you're going to see so many more people going, well, I'm not getting a TV licence. The days of going to jail are gone.
Yeah.
It's now the same as not paying a airport parking fine. All they can do is write me letters and threaten to take me to court. And when I get to court, they're going to charge me £1 a week.
Yeah.
So it'll get to a stage where the BBC, it won't be cost effective to chase people to pay the bill because they never get the money in the first place. I've got a friend who's a solicitor in Stockport, and he said to me once that he doesn't chase people to pay him. He says he'll do work for them, he'll send them a bill, don't pay it, he'll send them another letter don't pay it. Sends them a final letter, don't pay it. He writes it off. He said he used to chase them, and then he realised, I'm spending all my time and all my money chasing debts I never get back. I now just write them off and will never give him a service again.
Can you give me his name after this?
That's why I didn't mention him. That's why I didn't mention him. So he knows there's no point chasing bad money, because once you've got him to court, it's cost you all that time, energy and money. And then the judge goes, yeah, £2 a week, and then they pay it for a week, stop paying. You've got to then take them back to court, where at the moment this is all done by the police because it's a criminal offence. So once this happens, it's the end of the BBC licence within how many years, I don't know, but it's the end. Wow. People en masse will stop paying for it. There's no more deterrent anymore now not to not pay it.
Well, all I can say, folks, is you've heard it here first. The BBC licence will end, the BBC soon, and Starmer will be out by Christmas.
By Christmas. Labour have finally done something that will lead to a good result, but they've done it through incompetence. They've not planned to end the BBC licence fee. It's just going to happen because they're incompetent.
We'll end on that bombshell. Nick Buckley, thank you very much.
Cheers. Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers. I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.